This is CBC Vancouver News.
To the best of my knowledge, they were not known to police.
A father and his teenage son killed inside their Richmond home. Mysterious circumstances, but homicide investigators say it was a targeted hit. Also,
camp honestly changes lives. I think I can say that with confidence.
helping send kids to summer camp in December. We take you to a Christmas tree fundraiser in the Kootenays. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. Suspicious circumstances surround the deaths of a father and his teenaged son inside their home in Richmond Thursday night.
We believe this to be targeted, and what I mean by that is we believe that someone attended that residence with the intention of committing a murder. Beyond that, until we determine a motive, until we determine a suspect, I can't comment on exactly what the intent was.
Homicide investigators say it was a family member who called police. Officers found the bodies of the 43-year-old man and 13-year-old boy. They aren't revealing who the victims are or how they died. Police say the killings happened sometime between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. If anyone saw anything suspicious around that time, they're encouraged to contact IHIT. A train crashed into a semi-truck in Langley early this morning, leaving one person injured. This was around 3 a.m. at Glover Road and 216th Street. It involved this vacuum truck. It was a pumper truck full of water. Police say it was trying to make a three-point turn near the railway tracks. The person trying to direct the truck driver didn't notice the train approaching. The train couldn't stop and smashed into the semi, heavily damaging both. One person was taken to the hospital in stable condition. It led to hours-long road closures along the Langley bypass. The intersection didn't reopen until nearly noon today. Well, the emergency department at South Okanagan General Hospital is about to close again this weekend due to a doctor shortage. The ER in Oliver is normally open 24/7, but it will be shutting its doors once again tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Recurring issues with physician availability have forced its closure 3 times already in the past week alone. Interior Health is redirecting emergency patients to Penticton in the meantime. Ongoing high interest rates and record inflation continue to hold down job numbers. Canada's unemployment rate has risen to just over 5%. That's according to Statistics Canada. Still, BC's job growth remains steady with a gain of 9,000 jobs last month. Manufacturing and construction industry saw the largest employment gains.
Surrey, we're growing a city, building a city from the ground up. The construction and development sector is on an upsurge, but the challenge is to try to find that talent. It's not that there is a lack of jobs, it's trying to find the skilled talent to build our commercial buildings.
Nationally, average hourly wages also grew in November, rising nearly 5% compared to a year ago. The BC government says the feds need to offer more financial help to small businesses. The province is urging Ottawa to extend the COVID loan repayment deadline beyond mid-January. Well, it's a massive job, cutting down as many as 1 in 4 trees in Stanley Park. Certain areas will be closed off and on as work gets underway this weekend, and thousands of trees have been devastated by an infestation of the hemlock looper moth. As Yasmin Gandam explains, clearing the trees is considered necessary in the name of public safety.
Crews busy at work cutting down an estimated 160,000 trees as a result of a moth outbreak. And while it may seem like a lot of trees, forestry experts say the purge is needed.
We have some areas in the park with very, very dense forest or dense tree stands. And some of those are dead and dying, and those will be the kindling that will start a fire if there's a source of ignition. And we know there are lots of people using the park.
The park board says the tree removal is essential to restarting the forest afresh and giving it the strongest chance of withstanding future threats. And it's not just looper moths putting the forest through some tough times. The ongoing drought conditions have played a part as well. And that means without clearing the trees out, things could be dangerous.
You have a lot of dead trees, and with these dead hemlocks especially, you can end up with top break. You can end up with branches that break off, so they do pose a public safety risk. And that's why in a lot of publicly used areas, they may close areas off to ensure that no one is injured.
The majority of the trees impacted are western hemlocks, and once they're gone, there's a plan to replant with a variety of different trees, including fir, cedar, maple, and alder. While the work will take several years to carry out, traffic in the area is expected to be affected over the coming months, starting this weekend. And today, cars already backed up on Stanley Park Drive with road closures coming into effect. And on Sunday, there will be lane closures on the Stanley Park Causeway as well, with cyclists and pedestrians detoured through the park. Anyone going to or through the park is advised to check on closures, especially on weekends. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, soccer star Christine Sinclair and some of her Team Canada teammates hosted a special coaching session in Burnaby this afternoon.
I have more from the parents.
The event was held at the Christine Sinclair Community Centre. 50 girls aged 11 to 16 from Burnaby Football Club were mentored by Sinclair and her teammates. She spoke about her foundation, Girls with Goals, which advocates for female players' rights to equal compensation. And Sinclair also stopped by Starlight Stadium in Langford on the island yesterday to play her second last game before retiring.
Captain's the best. Awesome. She's my favorite person. Yeah.
I'm very sad but thankful. She's amazing.
She's really inspired.
Yeah.
She's such an inspiration for our girls. She's done so much for the game. She's done so much for women around the world.
Sinclair will play her final game on Tuesday against Australia at BC Place. Well, winter has nearly arrived, yes, but in the East Kootenay region, one particular event is gearing up to send kids to summer camp. As our Corey Bullock explains, the annual fundraiser features locally sourced Christmas trees sold by donation.
For Charlie Willis of Kootenay Tree Farms, the annual Blue Lake Christmas Tree fundraiser means a lot.
Love of my life.
Willis donates 40 trees every year, and the proceeds go towards sending kids to camp.
I think it's a really worthy cause. And as a kid, I was at Blue Lake before they built the Blue Lake camp. So.
Shauna Murphy, director of programs for the camp, agrees.
So we get lots of good feedback and awesome community support for this.
The program sends around 50 kids to camp each summer with little to no cost to the families.
Camp honestly changes lives, I think. I can say that with confidence, and just not having that kind of financial barrier.
And it's great to support Blue Lake because I know a lot of the children attend to that camp, and it's been a great positive experience in their lives. And so
this year, Kootenay Tree Farms has distributed more than 9,000 trees across Canada, many of which go to service clubs and organizations like Blue Lake. The trees are grown in a mixed forest and pruned to encourage optimal growth and minimal damage. Willis uses stump culture methods, meaning they only take part of the tree and leave the rest to grow.
The bulk of what we do in the valley here is all done on crown land.
But it's not exactly a quick process. He says it takes about 4 years from the time they pick and prune a tree to the time one is in your living room. A full circle moment for Blue Lake, which got its roots as a forest education society.
So when we started out in '77, it was to educate youth and the public on sustainable forest practices. So it's really cool for us as Blue Lake to be able to do a Christmas tree fundraiser and work with someone like Charlie from Kootenay Tree Farms, who has a sustainable method to producing the trees.
Making a difference in the forest and in the lives of Kootenay kids. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Well, today, families without a home were given the chance to get professional photos taken. Called Help Portrait, it's put on by the Union Gospel Mission over the holidays. We swung by to see the photographers in action on the downtown east side.
This event just shows the power of a photo. UGM has been hosting Help Portrait Vancouver for over a decade. This event invites professional makeup artists, professional hairstylists, professional photographers, and photo editors to give them a Christmas portrait that they can cherish for years to come. For people experiencing poverty, homelessness, and addictions, sitting down for a professional photo in a studio is often not attainable. For them to actually have the photo in their hands immediately, you get to see the joy on their faces, you get to see their smiles. We who've worked at Help Portrait for these past few years, we've seen families grow. We've seen kids come out. We've seen them age year after year. So it's kind of a community event for everyone to stay involved, stay in touch, and to just be loved on.
And just a few blocks away, Yaletown was transformed into Candy Town today.
People wandering around in their Santa hats. We've got elves here. We've got bouncy elves. We've got Frosty the Snowman. We've got the gingerbread cookies are going to come out and dance. So if you can't find something, you're not looking hard enough.
For one day only every December, Yaletown is taken over by horse carriage rides, live music, ice carving, even a break-dancing Rudolph. This was the 11th year of Candy Town, barring a pause for the pandemic. The festival also raises money for the BC Children's Hospital. Well, mountain caribou are a unique species, and they're threatened here in BC. But one man is trying to turn the tide with a program to supplement their feed with grain in the winter months. We took a ride with Doug Hurd near McLeod Lake to see his work and hear how it's going.
My name's Doug Hurd. I've been studying and researching caribou for about 40 years, both in the Northwest Territories and in British Columbia and a little bit in other parts of Canada. And right now I'm working on a specific research project with this caribou herd at Kennedy Siding, trying to increase their numbers and learn more about their general biology. Caribou have always been coming to this site, and the caribou spend most of their time, the rest of the year, they're in the mountains at much higher elevation, and they just come in the early winter to this location here where there's terrestrial lichen that they feed on. Like I said, this is a supplemental feeding project. They're still free-ranging animals. I've been working on this herd for 10 years, and it's important for two reasons. One is we're trying to increase the numbers of this population specifically because they had been declining until the point I started doing this supplemental feeding project, and also because we want to increase the numbers of British Columbia caribou in general, and so the general information I'm learning about supplemental feeding could possibly be applied elsewhere. And I spread the food out into different boxes or feeders, and then in addition to that I have trail cameras, motion sensitive trail cameras set up, and those cameras at and around the feeders take pictures of all the caribou, and each caribou then can be identified by their sex and age and antler structure from the photographs. And when I do that, then I'm able to get an estimate of the number of caribou that come to the feeders. Numbers have just about tripled since I began over 10 years, but I'm not, supplemental feeding is not the only management activity that's going on. In addition, the provincial government has a widespread wolf removal program, and that's been going on for 9 of the 10 years, and it appears that that's responsible for most of the increase. Now, and before we started, the caribou were declining at about 10% a year, and now they're increasing at about 16% a year. So it's been a huge reversal, and primarily because of wolf removal, but supplemental feeding appears to be contributing 3% to that growth.
Well, still to come, southern Germany has been hit hard by a blizzard that's shut down the airport and left cars stuck in the snow. We'll take you there coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome back. The week-long ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is now a thing of the past. Hundreds of strikes rocked Gaza today, with more people killed and injured. The CBC's Chris Reyes has more and a warning: some images may be distressing.
Israel says the strikes are for Hamas targets in Han Yunis, more than several hundred just in the last 24 hours, sending a clear message that any kind of pause in fighting is no more. With the return of bombs, also more chaos and cries. This man says, "My brother is gone, my daughter is gone, nothing is left."
We're still humans here in Gaza, we're not numbers here. So they should wake up this time.
As Israel and Hamas point fingers on who's responsible for breaking a delicate truce that lasted a week, world leaders gathered in Dubai scramble to keep diplomatic relations from falling apart.
It is truly heartbreaking. As Israel pursues its military objectives in Gaza, we believe Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians.
Israel says they are dropping leaflets and designating safe zones.
As we move in now to crush Hamas, we will in parallel continue to facilitate humanitarian support for the people of Gaza. That is part of our credo.
Hamas has also resumed firing rockets into Israel. Its leadership says they want a permanent ceasefire before any more hostages can be released. Also speaking from Dubai, French President Emmanuel Macron said he'll travel next to meet with the Qatari emir to help reach a new truce that can lead to a ceasefire. In Gaza, it is apparent derailed discussions towards peace cannot match the pace of destruction on the ground.
Everything in Gaza is at a breaking point. People are living in constant fear of violent death.
From Israel's strongest ally, a message that U.S. support now comes with conditions, one that's against displacement of Palestinians and any kind of Israeli siege or occupation of Gaza.
And a two-state solution then remains the best path, we believe, toward a durable peace. The President and I are committed to that goal.
A goal that for now is still clouded in the thick fog of war. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
To the Philippines now. A powerful earthquake rattled the southern portion of the country today, sending hundreds of people running from their homes. This is video of an apartment in Davao City the moment it struck. The 7.6 magnitude quake was followed by fears of a tsunami. It triggered evacuation orders for some parts of the Philippines and Japan's southwestern coasts. A U.S. monitoring agency says the risk of high waves has passed. At this point, no serious damage is reported from the quake itself. And southern Germany is getting a big taste of winter this weekend. 40 centimeters of snow blanketed the region by the time night fell. The effect on transportation was rather predictable. Flights at Munich Airport were canceled through the night. Long-distance trains were shut down and road crashes piled up. And some people opted for slower, safer ways of getting around. You're looking at a live shot of downtown Vancouver. We are in for some wild weather this week. A full look ahead to the atmospheric river that's on tap with your 5-day forecast coming up next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. On December 1st, join us for CBC British Columbia's annual Food Bank Day for a special day of broadcasts. The event is a yearly tradition for many, and will bring you a new edition of CBC's Food Bank Day that you can watch and stream live on CBC Gem and cbc.ca/BC. Make the season kind and donate at cbc.ca/foodbankday.
Welcome back. Leaders from around the world continue to meet at the COP28 conference in Dubai this weekend. A number of new initiatives were announced in the ongoing effort to combat climate change. And as the CBC's Jamie Strachan tells us, the Vatican weighed in today as well.
Your Eminence, the floor is yours.
Today in Dubai, a Vatican delegation delivered a message from the Pope, the latest global leader to sound the alarm on climate change.
The destruction of the environment is an offense against God.
Thus far, the COP summit has seen a long list of pledges, promises, and pushes to do better.
Climate change signals the need for a political change. Let us emerge from the narrowness of self-interest and nationalism.
The key focus of COP28 is reducing emissions in order to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrialized levels. It is still possible for us to reduce emissions enough in this decade to meet the 1.5 degree target, but the science tells us quite clearly that we have to hurry, despite all the geopolitical tension. A number of key initiatives announced today. The U.S. says it will sharply reduce methane pollution from its oil and gas industry.
These standards will prevent an estimated 58 million tons of methane emissions by 2038, an equivalent of 1.5 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide.
Also, a massive investment from the world's most powerful countries to help shift the focus to renewable energy.
It's a call for all nations to stop building new unabated coal power plants, a type of power plant that the United States stopped building more than a decade ago.
And a shared understanding that poorer countries need help dealing with the impacts of climate change.
Specifically in the Atlantic, coming from St. Kitts and Nevis, we are on the front line of climate change. We did not create the problem. However, we are suffering tremendously.
Amidst all the promises, there is doubt that any of it is happening fast enough, or that there is a true commitment to move the needle on climate change. The non-fulfillment of the commitments that were taken erodes the credibility of the regime. Participants here have said it will take efforts from nations big and small, rich and poor, to save the planet. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
And a busy weekend in the weather. Let's take a look. We'll get right to it, starting with our overnight lows. And the west coast is where we've got a wind warning in effect, specifically up north. So north coast, Haida, Kauai, even parts of the central coast as well. Wind gusts up to 90 kilometers an hour overnight. And of course, we'll see that with the precipitation coming in as well. It could be a blustery night into tomorrow. Here's our precipitation. We get a little taste of it tomorrow, and then bang, here comes that atmospheric river on Monday. That's when we will see some significant rainfall. We've got a special weather statement in effect for the lower mainland, the Sunshine Coast, parts of Vancouver Island as well. So again, this is primarily for Monday into Tuesday as well, but heavy rain, and then at the higher elevations, heavy snowfall, and that's going to cause a risk of flooding and even landslides in some areas. So that's the warning from Environment Canada. Before we get to that point, though, we do have as well a snowfall warning in effect for the mountain passes. So this is on the Coquihalla and also the Trans-Canada, both at the summit and the Rogers Pass there. So tomorrow evening, we could see up to 15 centimeters of snow. This is starting Sunday night into Monday morning, so do be careful if you're out driving at any of those higher elevations. Here's the 5-day forecast for Metro Vancouver. Again, the next few days across BC, likely some degree of precipitation, whether it comes down as rain or snow, depending on, of course, how cold we get, but around that 0 mark through parts of the interior, much warmer on the coast, but nothing but rain for this week. And that is your late news for this Saturday, December 2nd. For news anytime, anywhere, you can download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online as well. We're at cbc.ca/BC. Before we leave you, here is a look at the latest donation tally for CBC British Columbia's Food Bank Weekend. The total amount has now well exceeded $1.5 million. And while the phone lines are no longer open, you can still donate online until the end of day, December 31st, New Year's Eve. You can head to foodbanksbc.com/CBC Food Bank Day. Thank you for being with us. Have a great night.